Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're doing something really cool. We are tracking the actual impact of direct cash transfers on agriculture, and we're using hard data from a recent academic study to do it. Specifically, we're diving into a fascinating piece of research from the Agricultural Economics Research Review that puts a microscope right over one of the largest farm support policies in the world. We're going to skip all the political rhetoric and focus strictly on the numbers. We want to see exactly what happens when you hand cash directly to a farmer. All right, let's just jump right in by asking the multi-billion-dollar question at the absolute heart of global poverty alleviation. Does giving direct cash to farmers actually work? I mean, do they use it to improve their farms, or does it just kind of disappear into everyday household expenses? For years, policymakers have debated whether direct benefit transfers are truly effective at getting farmers to adopt modern agricultural technologies. Well, today, we finally have some concrete answers.
Chapter 1. The Small Farmer's Struggle.
Before we can even talk about solutions, we really need to understand the primary suspects that are keeping farm incomes stubbornly low across India. These structural challenges make it incredibly difficult for small and marginal farmers to invest in newer, yield-boosting technologies. It's like a giant bottleneck, right? You've got fragmented land holdings, the incredibly high cost of inputs like hybrid seeds and modern machinery, and severely limited access to credit. Without access to capital, farmers are essentially locked out from improving their crop productivity. They totally know how to grow more, but they simply don't have the upfront cash to make it happen.
Chapter 2. The PMKISAN cash transfer.
So, to combat this, the government introduced a massive countermeasure designed to supplement those financial needs. The crucial point here is this specific financial lifeline, the Pradhan, Mantri, Kisan, Samman, Nidhi Yojana, or PMKISAN. It's a direct cash transfer scheme providing exactly 6,000 rupees annually. But what's absolutely vital here is the timing. This isn't just one random lump sum. It's strategically given out in 3 intervals right before the major crop seasons. The whole goal is to inject liquidity exactly when the farmer needs to buy seeds and fertilizer. This is a huge deal because it helps them avoid local moneylenders who charge usurious sky-high interest rates.
Chapter 3. Finding the farming twins.
Now, to figure out if this cash transfer actually works in the real world, researchers investigated 360 households in Tamil Nadu. But first, they had to eliminate selection bias. They used a statistical technique called Propensity Score Matching. Now, instead of getting bogged down in complex math equations, just think of this methodology as finding farming twins. They took 180 beneficiaries and paired them up with 180 non-beneficiaries based on almost identical traits, things like age, education, farming experience, and how much land they owned. By doing this, they effectively isolated the cash transfer as the only major difference between the two groups. And the data brilliantly illustrates how researchers successfully matched these two groups. You can clearly see a strong overlapping distribution, which is exactly what we want. It essentially proves that the treated group and the untreated group are highly comparable. It confirms we have our farming twins, meaning any differences in their farm output moving forward are almost certainly due to that PMKISAN cash transfer. Chapter 4. Where does the money go? Okay, now we launch into the central investigation of this explainer, tracking exactly how a single hectare of paddy field absorbs this cash infusion. When we follow the money, the numbers are incredibly revealing. Critics of cash transfers often worry that the money will just be spent entirely on daily consumption. But the data proves a majority goes straight into the soil. Over 55% of the funds are reinvested directly into crop production, largely during that critical first installment. Another 34% goes to livestock rearing, like buying poultry or goats, and less than 10% goes to general household consumption. So the cash is acting exactly as intended, as a true agricultural investment. Now, what's really fascinating here is how that crop production slice breaks down into tangible, real-world farming inputs. Of the total cash transfer, farmers are dedicating over 18% to purchasing higher quality seeds. Nearly 16% is used to pay for human labor, which, is absolutely critical during planting and harvesting. And 12.5% goes straight to fertilizer. This cash is fundamentally altering the farmer's ability to properly resource their land. Chapter 5. Impact on yields and income. Let's see how all this builds up to actual operational cost savings between our farming twins. Because mathematically, investing in better seeds and fertilizers should lead to better outcomes, right? Well, a direct side-by-side comparison clearly highlights the operational cost savings and the yield bump for the farmers who received the transfer. beneficiaries spent roughly 64,500 rupees per hectare, compared to the non-beneficiaries who spent nearly 68,000. So the cash transfer actually lowered the out-of-pocket operational costs for the farmers. At the same time, because they could afford better inputs, the beneficiaries saw a yield increase, producing 47.5 quintals of paddy per hectare versus 46.5. Lower costs and higher yields. That is literally the perfect recipe for agricultural growth. And here is the triumphant data payoff. Beneficiaries saw a net income increase of exactly 4,831 rupees per hectare compared to their non-beneficiary twins. This is the ultimate bottom line of the study. When you account for the reduced operational costs and the increased crop yield, the direct cash transfer undeniably enhanced the profitability of the small and marginal farmers in this investigation. Chapter 6: Challenges and Next Steps.
Despite the clear financial verdict, the investigation did uncover some systemic glitches that still need fixing. We really have to objectively contrast the tangible agricultural gains against the bureaucratic hurdles that are currently locking out potential beneficiaries. On one hand, the data unequivocally shows higher net income and better input access. But on the flip side, the researchers highlight significant roadblocks. Many non-beneficiaries are excluded simply due to the complexity of maintaining updated land records. Plus, there is a severe knowledge gap regarding the electronic Know Your Customer, or e-KYC, registration process, especially among farmers with lower education levels. Basically, the policy itself works, but the paperwork is getting in the way.
So the researchers propose a highly practical next step to untangle this mess. They suggest leveraging local post offices to bridge the technological and administrative gap. Instead of forcing farmers to navigate complex online portals completely on their own, the study recommends leaning on an existing, trusted piece of rural infrastructure. Post offices could facilitate address validation, assist with the e-KYC registration, and handle secure payment transfers. It's a beautifully low-tech solution to a high-tech problem. Which brings us to a final thought to wrap up today's explainer. Does this micro-success story in Tamil Nadu hold the master key to rethinking agricultural subsidies worldwide? We've tracked the money straight into the soil, the seeds, and ultimately the farmers' pockets. If a relatively small capital injection can bypass moneylenders and trigger this much structural improvement, just imagine what scaling this globally, minus the bureaucratic glitches, could achieve. Keep questioning the data, and we will catch you in the next one.